Welcome everybody. This Vegan Synergy Meditation meeting number 8. I am Dharmendra, and we are going to begin the process with a creatively imagined guided visualization that will help us attune to the rest of the process. So as we begin, we consciously just stop the world that we have been engaging up to now in our day and kind of get off that train and let it move on without us for a while. It'll find us again, no worries. And we just sort of tap into who we are and where we're at and how we're feeling. And just notice if there's anything within the last week or so that has been challenging you, pushing your buttons, bringing up resistance, causing defensiveness, making you want to hide, avoid, deny, whatever it is that is bringing up old patterns that most likely were developed as survival mechanisms when we were children, when we felt that was the only way we could have got through the experience. And as we come into touch with that, we can be aware also, if we like, of the situation or situations, or if it's more about people, then we can become aware of that. Whatever it is, that is the surrounding circumstances that is provoking this challenging situation. And 9 times out of 10, no, I'll say 999 times out of 1,000, it's usually our mental activity that tends to keep that process repeating itself over and over in our minds. So if we can just maybe tap into our mind for a moment and just intentionally release that mechanism and just allow our brain to relax a little. How often do we allow our brain to actually relax? Yes, our bodies, we get to sleep, etc., but to consciously allow our brain some time off. We're just going to give our little brain some time off right now. And as we do, we can take a deep breath in our chest and move our consciousness, our awareness into our heart. And literally allow that problem that we've been focusing on for the last minute or two to drop like a teardrop right down into the center of our heart, where we can embrace it and hold it with love, like a mother does a child, or the earth does in nurturing a seed to grow into a plant. And as we do so, just notice the space opening up in the energy there, and whatever sensations, feelings, vibrations, pictures or images, or even if there's any sounds or you might be picking up, or smells or taste. Just acknowledge that embracing that energy with love allows it to open up and expand and become something that resembles a gift. And so assumes the form of an intriguing challenge, possibly, to be solved with our own ingenious capacities to unravel riddles, find our ways through labyrinths, or just simply dissolve the problem. And maybe just take a moment to acknowledge through your heart, the heart of everybody in the space right now that you're sharing this process with. They're not physically present, but they are energetically present, and there's no distance really when it comes to energy. however you would like to do that. You can just extend your heart into everybody else's heart, and at the same time receive everybody's extension of their heart through your heart. Because then there's all these gifts flowing through all of us. And even if your mind doesn't believe it, your heart knows that it's possible, and it happens all the time. When everybody's working toward a goal with enthusiasm and zest and intelligence and intuition and insight and delight and detachment and inventiveness and innovativeness and so many other qualities that gifts describe. And then for a moment, as each of us in our individual uniqueness, which we retain, enter into a state of unity that supports our individuality, our uniqueness of individuality, the paradox of each of us being ourselves totally and completely, while at the same time being a merged field of consciousness, where we can attune as a group entity of consciousness, combining all our consciousnesses together. And I also suggest you drop down into your belly and let that teardrop now become a pool, a silent pool, which you are just held in. And that pool is made of all our consciousness. And it is reflecting up into the higher spaces of being. And we are allowing whatever reflection that is causing in the higher spaces of being to fall down upon us like grace. And just kind of move through all of us all at once, and just refresh and cleanse and purify and wash our entire aura and body, and our body too, our physical body also. And even our consciousness form, however that may be at this moment. Each in our uniqueness as well as in our communion together. And as that washes, the grace washes through you, we can just release and just come back to ourselves as we entered this process this evening, and open our eyes, and we can begin Vegan Synergy Meditation meeting officially. Welcome, everybody. Wow, it's always so fun to look at everybody after. Glowing, luminous, yes, still beautiful. And I'll just say that I am the type of co-participant, but also guide, that loves to comment on beauty, and also help clarify things if we get into sticky places and shadows and you need clarification. I'm not the only one who can do that, though. There are other people present who also are able to do that. And even you yourself, if you're new and you feel the urge and you have an insight, I mean, there's no rules here. Everything kind of works nicely. So I always begin, because I wouldn't expect anybody else to do something that I wasn't capable of sharing first. But first, I'm going to turn the light on in the room. Give me half a second. Otherwise, I was going to dissolve in darkness, and we don't need that yet. Okay. So shadow for this week. It seems like every week since about 3 months ago, when Jamin and I met at Maud's Pizza, right near the 202 freeway on Wrecker Road. You probably know where that is, Jackie. That's where Amira and I go shopping at Sprouts. Anyway, he had just gotten through with the Vegan World 2026 conference. Amir and I had to work, but we lived right around the corner, so we watched Jane Unchained and got pretty much everything while you guys were all doing it. But I got a hit about Jamin maybe a week before that in the thing that Silas Rao, Deborah Grignard, and Jane Velez Mitchell put together, the online summit. And when I heard Jamin, and he kept talking about Radical Collective Intelligence. I said, I got to meet this guy because what I do is so closely linked to what he does. Even though we have unique ways of expressing it at the core, I believe we really have kind of share the same heart intent of just interconnecting the whole world into a global unity, you know, for the purpose of anything and everything we want to do that makes this planet a radically cool place. I mean, really, just to say it in kind of a cool way. But ever since then, it just seems every week, so it's been like, what, 12 weeks now, probably a little more, but every week it's like more and more density of meaning is coming into every week that passes. Get that term I said, density of meaning. Just keeps packing my week more and more with just things to think about and stuff to go through on a feeling level, and then things that come up to do that I didn't expect I would have to do in the midst of everything else I'm doing. And so it's really cool because that's kind of what happens when your consciousness starts accelerating. And my term, my official term is accelerated collective evolution. That's what I do overall, and vegan synergy meditation is one of the creative expressions of that here in Vegan World 2026, because I am an ardent vegan and have participated in several vegan activist activities in the last year or two. I've been vegan for 8 years, but activism only in the last 2 years. And in the last 3 months, ever since Jamin and I went into the Golden Corral here in Mesa, which was probably one of the most insane places to go do a disruption. It was almost like we were going to get lynched. But we did it with the pros, Frankie and who else was there? I can't remember. Sarah Siegel and anyway, a bunch of other people, and Jamin and I and several others. So that was a blast. That's how Jamin and I basically met. And then afterwards, we went to Mod Pizza and sat down and talked about what we'd like to start opening up. And it's just been opening ever since through Vegan World 2026 really strongly. So I just wanted to share all that a little bit, just to give it a little bit more history. And now into my shadow for this week is what I've been noticing, because I'm doing a lot more watching than in the last several VCI meetings than I have been before. Before that, I was more interactive verbally, and now I'm kind of just watching. But I'm noticing that there's a really challenging kind of, at the moment, it seems kind of a big gap between the organization we're trying to form so that we can have an effective way to operate, which I totally agree with. We need a structure to structure our activities in the world for long range vision and all kinds of things. And then a lot of people, perhaps the majority of people in Vegan World 2026, are just out there doing it and aren't really, I'm guessing, and I've noticed that with a lot of vegan activists and other people who are out there active in the world, they're not a whole lot real interested in talking about things. They are just get out there and do it. Get out there and hold the sign. Go do the disruption. Go in and rescue the animal. You know, just bing, bang, boom. Just do it. But I see that and Anne was mentioning in the meeting, and I really felt in tune with her on that. The heart, and this is one of those places, like art and other things, that it's about the heart. It's about, we need that connection between the mind, the overall organizing entity, and the doers, and those who like to get stuff done, you know, because then from both ends, things will become more effective. They'll become more, you know, the more we can organize the doing, the more unstoppable we can become. And the more the doers can allow themselves to align with that organization, they can find so many other ways to start doing things instead of just the ones they're used to and hoping some others pop up. It's kind of a slow caveman way, no offense, but a slow caveman way of moving forward, when you can have this telescopic view through an organization that gives you access to so many other possible avenues of expression. And so I'm just a little frustrated and you know, I kind of feel like a crumpled up newspaper in my heart when I look at this, and I just go, crap, you know, that just feels weird that it's just kind of all scrunched up like that. And that's how my heart feels when I see that gap. And I don't know. Just I don't really like it. It doesn't feel very good. And that's what we're doing at this stage, Patricia. It may take a while to get there, but at the last moment, I'm sure you could kind of get and feel what I was saying. And that's what we're looking for when somebody finally hits the note of their shadow, and I just did. So that's you know, that's what's been being brought up in me, and it just is definitely related to vegan. It isn't always, but it's nice if it is, and it has been more lately related to activities in Vegan World 2026, because that is what this group is obviously a part of. So I will go on mute, and whoever would like to share next, your shadow of the week, please.
I can go. I was working with somebody to create that wanted to help me create the compassionate living circles that is what Thomas Wade Jackson conceptualized as when people watch a prayer for compassion, then if we could direct that, help people to create these compassionate living circles in their faith communities, then that would just make that, it's not like they're just watching a film. They can go on to do something. And so I learned about this from the Interfaith Vegan Coalition, which Lisa invited me to come to the first meeting, which was only like one of the first meetings, which was only like 7 weeks ago. And I just jumped in saying, I'll take on this job of trying to create these compassionate living circles. And then also help find some structure for the Interfaith Vegan Coalition. Because they don't really have a structure, just try to, and then that got me involved with Vegan World 2026, which I had heard about from when I went to the Animal Liberation Conference in 2018, that Direct Action Everywhere. I met Dr. Rao briefly. So it's like, then all of a sudden there's, it was so wonderful because Ray was willing to just stick a Compassionate Living Circles development team on the base camp. And then I dive into learning base camp and how do I get involved with all this? And so now I'm on the processing team to help develop the vision for Vegan 2026. I mean, for the, my biggest shadow is trying to remember all the names of everything. the VCI, I think it's the VCI. It's not really my biggest shadow. But so I'm on one hand, I'm so excited to be doing all this. And there have been some conflicts. In fact, one of my first meetings, I had an interaction with someone where I go, whoa, I might just need to bail out of this because I've had a lot of bad experiences with organizations. And but then somebody reached out to me and because I had said I was hurt during the meeting, and somebody reached out to me. So that's all going to say that there was this one person that really wanted to work on the Compassionate Living Circle, somebody I've known for 25 years. And I was just like so excited that we could finally do a project together. And we met along with my former husband, Cliff, who I love working with, but we met 3 times. No, 4 times actually. And each time it got worse, our interactions. It just got like, there's this, it just wasn't, there was just so much conflict and misunderstanding and criticism. I felt criticized by this person. And so it was only yesterday. I mean, I kept on thinking, I'm out of here. I can't do this. But then she says, no, I really want to do this. You're my sister, you know, you're my dear friend. I just want to do this. But yesterday, I really watched the vibe during this meeting. And and I just thought, okay, I'm going to observe, like, when does this start getting all tangled up? What is my part in this? And let's see if I can just watch. And what happened was she got frustrated all of a sudden. And she just says, what the hell are we doing? And I thought we were having a really good meeting. I tried to explain to her, when you get frustrated, all of a sudden, I don't know where it's coming from. I think that even irritation doesn't need to, I mean, we don't need to get irritated and frustrated. We can be in tune with ourselves. She's a very spiritual person. And, you know, I just trying to explain how it affects me. And I think for the first time in my life, I felt the feeling of flooding. My body was flooded with bad stuff. And I go, okay, this is what it means to flood. This is what it means when somebody's I'm not dealing with this well. And I told her how I felt, and she didn't seem to care. It's like her emphasis was, I need to feel my feelings. And I had to leave the meeting. And so then she reached out to me and today and said, how about if we have meetings and I just don't feel my feelings? And I go, I just said, you know, I think we need to process this last meeting. Probably could take us a long time just to deal with everything that happened. And I think I've got too many other things going on. I need to withdraw from this project because I can still do the Compassionate Living Circles. I mean, I'm in charge of it. In charge of coordinating all the ideas, and I don't have to do it with her. I'm not giving up that project. But it just, this happened. I felt just like when we dropped in my heart, like, oh, I love her. I want the best for her, but her presence in my life just feels toxic. And if I was having these problems with everybody, I might doubt myself, but I'm just like, no, it's going pretty well. I really think this is just this is not a lesson I need to learn. I mean, in terms of having to keep going through this.
Hey, Patricia, real quick.
Yeah. Do I need
if you could just drop into that thing, because I'm picking up exhaustion, I'm picking up corruption, I'm picking up control, and a lot of different things. Is there one essential shadow aspect that is resident in you the most? Because that's what we're looking for right now. We don't. The rest of everything you're doing, that's there, and it's okay because you're trying to find it. But I'm trying to coax you a little bit into just getting right into it and just offering it. If just because I'm picking up a lot of different things, and I'm wondering which one is the one, is the shadow that that actually was left with you.
I think it's just the grief that just didn't work out. Something that I really was hopeful about, and that she seems to have so much desire to keep doing.
So are you so is it a sense of dissociation from this, or like wanting to divide yourself from it because of the discord being created? I mean, grief is an emotion. We're trying to get to a shadow state that grief is hovering around.
Yeah, it's kind of like I'd really rather not deal with her. If I had my way, I wouldn't even, she would just disappear. That would be the shadow.
Okay, so that sounded to me like there's a failure there. It just didn't happen. It didn't work. Is that true? All of a sudden I felt it. You brought it, I got it. And what I got was kind of, I give up, this didn't work. I'm letting it go. So that's just fair. That's okay. And I can see why there's grief there. I can feel it. Thank you. That's how we do the first step. Thank you for being so brave and jumping in so quick like that. That's really cool.
Thank you.
But I'm not stopping you. If there's anything else you want to say to complete the process.
In fact, I mean, I would love to have a time, you know, so that I know how I'm not taking up too much space, or, you know.
Oh, don't worry about that. It's your first time, and we just wanted to carry you and allow you a little bit, because we all knew it was going to take a little longer. It did for all of us in the beginning too. It takes a little while to get around to it, but at a certain point, I think. I mean, how long do you want to be in a shadow, right?
Yeah.
It's more out of compassion I'm asking, rather than for you to hurry up, because if anywhere I'd want us to stay longer, it'd be more in the gift or the siddha, which usually happens.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Beautiful for bringing that through. Okay, I'm going back on mute. Patricia, do you know how to mute yours? Because there's some dings. Okay, thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'll jump in here since the word grief has come up. I'm not going to really focus on shadow, because I'm not really carrying that much shadow around right now, weirdly enough, but okay. I have been really in a grieving period. I lost 3 very close friends who crossed over Saturday that just gone by, and someone a little earlier than Saturday. And where that took me was really my frustration with myself. I could maybe use the word disappointment or regret, that I didn't make an effort earlier to connect with these beloveds before they left the physical realm. And also I'm dealing with my 90-year-old mother, who is in the dying process, although it's taking a long time. And so there's a lot of wounding that I'm carrying around from my childhood and things that went on between her and my sister and myself. And so there has been this kind of resistance going on, where I'm having to be a caretaker for this mother who was not a great mother always. But the interesting thing about all this is that what has happened to me in a very quick space of time, where I've allowed myself to acknowledge that shadow that I've been carrying, and that grief and that disappointment, et cetera, is that I feel very empowered. So I'm very grounded and very centered and very much back in myself. I'm empowered, and I feel extremely, I don't like the word powerful, but extremely in this space of commitment to what I came here to do, using my gifts and that the Creator gave me, and this force that's flowing through me. So I just wanted to acknowledge that, because that came out of doing this work while in this shadow, and coming to a place of compassion and love for a mother that's not perfect, you know, but who is, right? And for the loss of beloveds, that I was able to tell them I love them, and that how much I appreciate them and their uniqueness before they left. Thank you.
So as always, Melissa is, I always have to make a comment, because she's touched on a couple of salient points. And in my opinion, she did it exquisitely, because when it comes to the shadow, if there's a full embracing of the shadow, then what you have is an empowering of your physical form to act. It literally materializes your ability to do. That's what the shadow is about, when it's been freed of its mental distortions, and it just becomes the energy it was meant to be. So it was really fascinating and enjoyable to listen to Melissa describe exactly the process of what happens, because there's always going to be a shadow there, because our body is literally a shadow of light. So there's no way you can never not have a shadow. But if your orientation to it is correct, then it is your power. It is your power of your physical form. And that's why there's a groundedness and a centeredness. Those are all natural qualities of empowerment of the physical form. And probably balance and some other things, feeling a sense of balance and equality and things like that. So very beautifully said, Melissa. And you can't fake that stuff. Can't make that stuff up. That's how it works. So again, thank you. Always grateful for your sharing and understanding. Okay, I'm going silent for whoever wishes to jump into the holy fire next.
All righty. Great to be here with you all. You know, in sessions past, I've always kind of had this sort of immediate shadow. Right now, it's not so clear. Is this a shadow or is this like a good thing? But I've been having this experience of like there's just so much going on, so much complication in life, so many things to attend to, whether it's emails or texts or this or that, or something I'm supposed to download or whatever. And so I've been having this experience of, in a way, just kind of letting go and essentially, for lack of better words, just kind of going with the flow of what feels most important at any given moment, and giving myself permission to let certain things slide, right? So like, for example, before this meeting, Nolan and Evan and I were working on some technical stuff because we want to get a bunch of stuff done in time for the first big block party in 2 weeks and a day. And like I had the thought and I articulated, I said, hey, look, you know, since we have so much to do, would it make sense to not be at the meditation meeting this week and just keep chugging away? So this is an example. And then I said, wait a second, no. And we talked about it. We really want to be here with you all doing this beautiful meditation, sharing this beautiful time. So I was like, you know what? We'll get that other stuff done. We don't have to do it all today. That's just an example of me kind of letting go. So it doesn't really feel like a shadow. It almost feels like a gift. And maybe the shadow was previously letting myself feel overwhelmed and stressed out, etc. So anyway, open to your guidance as always, Dharmendra.
And now I have to make a few points about what Jamin just said, which are other qualities, because one of the things about doing this work is the shadow becomes less and less important, less and less relevant, and less taking up our time. And once we can just step into our power, and as Jamin said, it's like water off a duck's back. You become more resilient. The more you're in tune with the energy that you can do in your body and ground it and stay centered, then the things that would usually bring up shadow, those patterns, are too busy supporting this new structure that has to do with gift energy. And you become very resilient to old patterns that used to draw you in or suck you into the little eddies and pools of shadow realm, little tiny parts of yourself that really take up way too much time and attention, but don't really get much done because they're so little tiny parts. And, you know, because they came from little tiny parts of ourselves when we were little and tiny. So, that's another aspect, as well as empowerment, is resilience. So there's another aspect when you start to gain back more and more of the shadows hold on you and start to claim your physicality and embody yourself and empower your capacity to do, because that's our primary gift of all of us in the material world is, what can we do? How can we move objects in skillful ways to create a better life for ourselves and everyone around us, and the animals and the environment? Very important. So I just wanted to bring that up too. That's another aspect. So everything's going just perfectly.
Can I add something, Dharmendra? That is what we call being a human being instead of a human doing.
Right. That's what this meeting is about, human beings. But the human being whose doing can flow naturally, now that's quite something. Because then it's not doing you, you're doing it as a being. That's how it should be. The doing shouldn't be being you. You should be being and making the doing happen, not the other way around. Okay, I'm going on silence.
Hey everyone. A big thing for me recently has been just doing things without having a completely clear picture and without like all the time and space I could wish to do this thing to make it perfect. That's I guess desiring that time and space or energy has been preventing me from doing some things at all. And so I'm not sure where it is on the chart there, but it's like the negative aspect of perfectionism is what I'm trying to get at. Yeah, and that's, I guess, about all I have to say.
Can I ask you a question, Nolan?
Yeah.
Is it that you're compartmentalizing your time based on the values you see the activities in those times have, and because there's an expectation as to how you might like to see those play out, there's a kind of almost like a resentment or something that it's not playing out the way you might have it? Is that anywhere near what you're trying to describe?
Yeah, and part of what goes along with it is this feeling of, I guess, rushedness, that if some other obstacle is introduced after beginning some process, then that's felt extra upsetting recently. Mm-hmm. And then, yeah, if it doesn't feel super like clean, you know, or some extra dirt has been thrown into the situation, I've been very easily tempted into just, I'll just save it for when I have more energy, or, you know, when whatever, I just won't deal with it right away. So, yeah.
Yeah. Some of us, you know, as far as genetically, our imprints at the moment of birth are much more prone to emotional waves. And I have a feeling that's you. It is me. So a lot of what you're describing has been a very big challenge in my life also. Some people are attuned right into their belly, more like Jamin, who can just, when he gets the wave, he's history. He's riding that wave as long as it takes him. He doesn't need a break. He doesn't need anything. He's fine. And some of us are not designed like that. We do not have constant access to energy unless we're around others who have that access. But if we're used to riding our wave, which is different than a tidal wave that we just ride. But if we're into that usual up and down of the emotional system, it's different than the life force. That's the difference. Jamin just hooks into the life force and it just takes him. And that's different than somebody who's more in the emotional wave. And that's how you connect it into life and and use your energy. And so it's just different. And then some people are much more like to stand back, take a look at the picture, and kind of guide people along. And other people like to just get into it and just create it and make it happen. And they don't care how that happens. So it's just stuff to understand. And the more you get familiar with your energy, the more you'll be able to figure out all those things that you're going to need so that you remain vital and feel nourished in the process of creation. And you're going to need to learn to express that and share that this is what you need. Because if you get caught in other people's agenda who run on different empowering circuitry, then you're at a certain point, you're going to go into major burnout, because I have many times in my life. And it's not fun because you shut down emotionally and you really shut off mentally, and physically you can even get sick for periods of time. So you need to find ways to structure it. The better you get at that, the more you can then, when you do focus, you can focus like nobody's business and really get an amazing amount done of stuff that can impact hundreds of other things. That's another thing, is learning where to focus that can have the greatest amount of impact, so you can get the most out of your energy. That's another thing to start to tune into too. Those are just things that I'm picking up from you and the way you're describing your process that remind me of my own process as you know, as I was throughout my life, is what I want to say. So those are just maybe some things I could share with you that might start to help you become more responsible for your process. So you don't become a drain on others, and you can have yourself and have the greatest impact in what you do. You know, what you do put in that can have a lot of influence in a very positive way, in a multi-dimensional, because I know you can do that. I've felt it, I've seen it. And sometimes when you really get in touch and share, it's, you know, you're really a poet. So that aspect could be transferred into, you know, other areas of your life. I mean, we can transfer any skill into any other area. Just ask Jamin. He's a master of that.
May I add something to that, Dharmendra?
Yeah.
Nolan, or to Nolan, I would like to say, Nolan, hearing what you just shared, thank you, that it's really important to honor ourselves and our own working process and our own beingness. And I think the beauty is and will be when you honor yourself and work within your own, like Dharmendra is saying, process in your own way, and then that becomes a gift. Like, we don't need to be like anybody else. We don't need to work like anybody else. And I don't know, for myself personally, find that there have been times when I get out my surfboard and I ride the waves, and there are other times where I just hang out on the shore. You know, so there are these different times when, you know, and there's planetary influences on us as well. Like if Mars is hanging out in your sign, you know, you're going to be really motivated and energetic. And there are other times when we're more reflective and quiet. So I think that's something else to take note of. I just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Would anybody else like to share their shadow contribution?
Yeah, I can share what I've been feeling. So in the past week, something I've been feeling more is just a little bit of uncertainty. I just don't feel incredibly certain, and kind of trying to feel into the uncertainty of life in general, and the uncertainty of the future, realizing that there's just so many factors and variables to take into consideration that I can't be certain of any outcome, and kind of just trying to come to terms with that uncertainty with like my day-to-day actions, and just I've been noticing it everywhere. Yeah, and kind of just trying to sit with it. That's all that's been happening recently.
Thank you, Evan. I could definitely feel when you hit the note there. Yeah, that must be a little uncomfortable for you, and I acknowledge that. And way to hang in there. That's always a challenging place to be at that place. All right. Would anybody else like to jump?
Say, I think like some of the others in the group, not so much shadow work, but something that came up for me this week is I'm a little bit, the theme seems to be grieving. I'm a little bit of grieving because there's, right now on the planet, there's so many shifts, there's so many new beginnings. We're entering the second grade of Aquarius. There's such an expansion, and with this new moon, there's so much shift and new beginnings. And I've been in a position this week to really hone in on all of my teaching and wisdom training, to stay grounded and to allow people's unconsciousness to guide them and to release. And especially people that you love, that are part of your core existence, that you inform, you know, have identified with, and to release them to their own unconsciousness and their own path. It's very hurtful. And to stay grounded in the work that we're doing and in the new that's evolving and manifesting before us. And to stay grounded in the knowing that everything is perfect and everything is divine and everything is happening as it should be. And to stay out of our own unconsciousness and to remember who we are and everything is a divine plan and there's a greater order. That has been, this week has come up for me a lot, is releasing the love and reminding that I don't have love to give, but I am the love that is part of the whole. And to remember about ego. So I've had to really just take all my training and been my own coach this week, especially to release that and to help myself feel the feelings and to remember that everything is beautiful and perfect and as it should be.
Nice, thank you, Jackie. The only thing I picked up was the slightest little bit of constriction on your love. Otherwise your response is feels very strong, centered, and empowering, and holding a lot of space and grace for people's unconsciousness, which is quite a skill and a process to do. So I acknowledge
that was the emoting part. That was just the holding back the emoting.
Yeah. No, well, I felt a little bit of sadness, but I felt you didn't really want to dwell there. And then I just saw that you just, it's always this sense of how, you know, how much do I have to hold it before we can just, you know, accept the fact that there's this love and we might as well just, you know, share in that. So I can relate. I could totally relate to that. Cool. Was there anything else you wanted to share? Okay. Could you mute yourself? I will remind people so we don't vibrate each other accidentally. So we're going to move into the gift phase, and tonight I've been dying to throw the sacred geometry in there, guys, because we've only done it once or twice in the past. But I want to throw it in because it's actually the next level beyond the level we're going to work at tonight, but I want to kind of blend it into this level so we can start to get a taste of some of the capacities that Vegan Synergy Meditation makes available other than just shadow, gift, and siddha. So through the gift tonight, we have 7 people here, so we can work. When I say sacred geometry, I always take the number of people present, and then that becomes our sacred geometry. So we have a 7-fold geometry tonight, and one of the easiest ones to work with the 7-fold geometry is, of course, the whirling energy centers of our you know, however you want to call it, our human biofields, because it's more than just our body, which is the 7 chakras, to put in, you know, ordinary language. So since I'm starting, we're going to drop down from the top. I'm going to start with the crown, and you can do these chakras however you see it. I could lay out a map, but I don't want to impose my opinion on anybody or coerce anybody subtly about how they're supposed to do it. So the order is going to come out naturally. Whoever goes next is going to be the brow chakra, the third eye. Whoever goes next is going to be the throat chakra. Whoever goes next, and you're going to be like the spokesperson for that energy in human beings. That's what sacred geometry is. And we've done it before with the 5 elements, which is fun too: earth, air, water, fire, and space. But since we have 7, we can do chakras. And so each person, just take a moment to tune into that place, and then into all of humanity and what that chakra is like. And then speak from that space about the gift aspect of whatever you opened up in the first phase, where you're going to embrace that, and even let, if you've already tuned into your gift a little bit, now you're going to have to open it even more, get more creative, get innovative with it, and express it in a way where we all can start connecting into it with our hearts, because this is where we all start to sing together the gift. It's not about our personal story of challenge now, it's about our collective sharing of the heart. That's what the gift is about. Okay, and so et cetera, and then the next person will be the solar plexus, the next will be the belly, and the final one will be the root. So it just depends on who shares in what order. And since I always generally share first, so we can get a, you know, be a role model example, so I don't expect anybody to do something that I haven't done first, since I'm presenting this. So from the crown chakra, which is got a lot of different qualities to it, like synthesis, which is an aspect of brilliance and intelligence, but also knowing in the sense of direct knowing, because you are one with the thing you're knowing, rather than a mental conception. It's more of a direct connection. Wow, that's interesting. So as I embrace the crumpled feeling in my heart and just love it, through the knowing, I get, something was already telling me in my ear that this is all going to work out incredibly, and that the doers are going to start seeking out the organizers, and the organizers are going to also find the right doers to spread the organization. And that makes my heart sing a little bit and feel really very good, actually. And I didn't know that because I hadn't looked there. I didn't even consider that possibility. That's one of the beauties of the gift. And a lot of times I'll just comment on the process as I'm doing it. Because a lot of times, like I say, it's always very revealing and new. And I've done this thousands of times, but it's always new every time. It's just that I hadn't seen it before, that the intent with which all of this was conceived is a great love for every living thing on the planet, including the planet, and the desire in the most loving way that everything gets to experience itself to the fullest of its living potential, not only with itself, but with others, and for the benefit of everything out there that might be witnessing us right now. And by that, I mean there's lots of higher intelligence around this planet that is witnessing all of this. It's part of what keeps everything going, actually. We'll get into that in the third phase a little more if it comes up. But so I just have a great joy and a sense of exuberance, and it's better than hope, because with exuberance, there's already something I can tell that's moving in the right direction to bring together these disparate elements. You know, kind of like on a singular level, it would be the separation between mind and body, the organizers and the doers. But I'm starting to see, and this actually, this is another funny thing, because this is one of those groups in Vegan World 2026 that's neither a task force nor a study group. It's a heart space that we are opening through meditation and coming together and sharing that has benefit in both directions. And not only that, it also is benefited by all those, by task force and study groups. It also receives. It's not just one way. It's a flow. It's a blend. So that's what I know about that. So that's the crown chakra. And I want everybody, whoever starts next, and so each one I won't tax anybody's memory. The next one is the third eye. So that's about seeing clearly. And that's just a, what do you call it? Generic. I'm not trying to influence any, because that is true no matter what. But whoever takes the next sharing, that's the position to kind of embody, and then come from that space when you embrace whatever it is, your power, your shadow, whatever it is, and open your gift up and touch all our hearts.
I would love to go next. What's coming to me is through this moment of centeredness, is having clarity about the connection of the past, the present, and the future. And what I'm getting from that is the tree of life taking root, and it's connecting with the past and growing up through the present moment and flowering out into the future. And for me, this represents the whole of life, from the beginning of time till the never ending of time. And I'm just seeing rebirth from this, connection, connectivity, that you spoke about energy earlier, Dharmendra, that energy never dies, and the energy is always here, spirit is always here, and this connection with those who've come before us, with those who are here now and those who are not yet born. There is a connection and ever flowingness. And yeah, so that's what I'm getting from this, seeing clearly about connection. So it brings me back to stillness, because I don't have to grieve the past, mourn the present, or anticipate the future. It's kind of like just being all moments at one moment in time, here and now.
Very nice. Thank you, Melissa. So one other thing things are going to occur to me as we go on in the process, but with each chakra we go to, I would ask everybody, whatever chakra we're in, with that person, to focus all your energy toward that person in the place where that chakra is, because that will help them immensely and give them energy to express from that place. Is everybody comfortable with that? Because that is kind of a influx of energy that's going to come. Okay, cool. On silence. So, and the next is the throat chakra, the chakra of expression and whatever else you want to give it.
I'll take that one. I'm working on a memoir, and a lot of it is inspired from my experience with climate healers, this community, the truth. The power of the voice to create. We create all the world is created by our intentions, for our voice, from our vibration. It's an outward manifestation. And because of how I grew up, and because of this life that I'm inhabiting in this time, the knowledge that I acquired from all of the oppression gave me such insight into all of the social injustices and everything that was going on, and allowed me, gave me permission to use my voice responsibly, gave me permission to be unapologetic with my identity and who I am. And that was not something that was taught to me. If anything, the opposite was what was taught to me growing up, impoverished, underfunded communities, being told that I was born wrong. It is a power of the voice to transmute experiences and to share light and to spread love. And it's who I am right now, right? I see myself as a spiritual being living this human existence, that I am pure light and I am pure love. And at almost 48 years old, to finally find the voice, to put it down on paper, to help spread the message that we are co-creating this world, that there is the past that we can love and honor and appreciate. There is a present where we find ourselves in communities and gathering and using our voice to then invite that future that we all know, and we all know is about love and that we deserve. And it is about, that is what I'm thinking as I'm watching and listening to all of us about that throat chakra. It is the biggest gift that I've been given, is to learn this knowledge, because it was here my heart was stuck, because I could not speak. And now that I can speak, Now it's just flowing. Now it's in the written word. And I've been a writer my whole life, and it's taken me all this time to be able to synthesize all this in order to give it back out to the world in a loving way, without judgment, but with love.
Boom. That was really nice. I felt like, well, thank you, Jackie. That definitely gave a beautiful, how shall I say, contribution to the quality of this meeting. I felt like the caliber of this meeting has just been enhanced. So thank you. And I love it when I find people that can step into this and then really step into themselves in this and realize that they already know this stuff, you know. Just because I happen to put it together in the sequence doesn't, you know, once it's because we all have the same, we all are connected through essence. And really the centering essence is the second most important thing outside of accelerated collective evolution that I like to share with humanity. That comes from a centered and centering essence. And that doesn't really begin to truly crystallize until you do what you said. You unlock the throat and let the truth of your heart come out. Yeah. And then the essence, then you can start to express your essence in a centered way. Centering essence. Beautiful. Thank you. Wonderful. Okay, so the next would be the heart. So if everybody can please hold the intention that whoever's speaking, we all zoom into that chakra and that person and support them and hold the grace for them so that they feel really supported in expressing from that place. So the heart's next, the heart chakra, whoever would like to take what they're transforming of whatever your power or upgrading your power or upshifting your power or transforming your shadow, however you want to consider it.
I'll speak to the heart. Recently with feeling uncertain, something I've found that I've been coming back to is listening to my heart rather than my thoughts. Because I kind of grew up with the assumption that you thought about the best way to do something, and then once you thought it through, then you could act. And I've been finding that reaching this place of uncertainty. How do I fit in the world? How do we fit in the world? How can I contribute to the world? I feel like I'm at this edge of certainty, and there's some part of that makes me uncomfortable. But I keep being brought back to this time when I was so bored with certainty that I was actually just dying for some chance to be introduced into life, because I feel like I could see what was around the corner, and by the time I got there, it was like I already experienced it. And so it's strange to now be at this place, this edge of uncertainty, and feel like, oh, perhaps this is actually a great opportunity that I'm being given, is to just take leaps of faith throughout my day, and not know. And just trying to really tune into the kind of the wordless feelings that arise that seem to pull me towards something, and rather than trying to justify everything that it is that I do, because there's some things that I just love them, and I ought not have to justify why it is I'm drawn to them, like my family or music. I like my justification is just the way it feels in my heart, and I've been finding that identifying my uncertainty has allowed me to kind of be at peace with that, and now I am able to actually watch my uncertainty and just like rest and love my uncertainty as is, because knowing that now there's like this space, the unknown to come in and kind of gift my life with something new.
Beautiful, Evan. So many qualities of heart in there, like trust and the unknown, and just letting that be an uncertainty, and well, just downright mystery, I'm guessing, you know, and the willingness to be uncomfortable, but not in a bad way, just that's just the way it is. That's an open heart. Very beautifully done. Thank you. So now we move into the solar plexus, the place where the most nerve endings of the body coincide. So whoever wants to go there, you can figure out what that means.
I'd like to go. I'm starting to feel more sensitive to energy, which I used to think I was kind of dense. And so in this specific situation, but others that are coming up, when I feel like there's a punch to my solar plexus, I notice it. And I'm so happy because I'm getting to, the gift is that I'm learning how to roll with the punch and not react in a way that's destructive, and instead observe it and to be assertive about, you know what, you just punched me. I don't say that, but I'm doing my best to be present. Maybe I offer empathy as a way, empathic listening, reflective listening to someone to try to understand where they're coming from. But if I still feel that punching, I just say, you know what? I need to remove myself because I'm getting damaged. And I don't want to, I am not going to fight back. I'm making that decision. So the gift of this specific situation is that I did make, I made that decision over and over again. I'm not going to engage in that same punching. And I feel happy about that.
That's beautiful. I got a great sense of relief for you. Like finally, you don't have to do that anymore. Wow. You woke up to that, what was happening there, and you've become more fluid. You're like a fluid warrior, female warrior now, much more so it seems like. That I picked up on through the solar plexus, because that's what I obviously was tuning into, and I just felt this, I don't want to call it liquid, although it felt like liquid. It was more like molten steel, but very light and viscous and very easily to move, but very powerful, but not attracting attention to itself, not needing any special anything, just doing what it needs to do. So it's just very beautiful. There's a whole transformation in it too, from where you started and then where you took us through the solar plexus. So that was a nice little journey. Thank you.
Can I add something?
Of course.
In French, the solar plexus, they say, je me donne permission, which means I give myself permission. And I really got that from you, Patricia, that you gave yourself permission, you know. That was awesome.
Thank you. Thank you, both of you.
All right, so now we step into the belly. We just have the belly and the root left, so the belly. And whatever the belly is holding for you, whoever's next. Remember too, though, the belly includes the hara. So that's also like the Japanese samurai who's aware of everything around him directly through literally strands of luminous awareness connecting him to his entire environment. So there's a lot of very powerful and radical stuff in the belly. It's not just a place where we stuff down emotions we'd rather not feel. That's a shadow occupation of the belly. And that's usually accompanied by emotional eating. But this is something different. And that's a great way to put it because it's all about awareness. I have to use the samurai, and it's not really a very positive term, but the quality of spirit and what spirit can do to your awareness through your belly is a beautiful thing. And it's something we can all definitely grow forever in, that's for sure. So I just want to add that quality because of being also a martial artist since 1970, it's a quality we strive to bring forth into the world.
Hey, thank you. I'll go, and Dharmender, would you be good enough to just reiterate what the request of this exercise is?
Yes, right now all of us are tuning into your belly, like right around your belly button, which is the second chakra. It's all about the chakras. I started with the seventh and we moved down through each one. And whatever it is that you're working on tonight, wherever you started, now you're going to open your gift quality, but you're going to express it out of the center of whatever chakra you're at right now. So it's going to be a belly-oriented expression, experience, perception, whatever you want to, however, style of, communication that you're going to come out with your gift with it. And we're all going to give you energy by focusing at your belly area, through our belly areas.
Okay, great. Thank you. So related to what I was sharing earlier about, just kind of getting into the flow, I'm just being with my gut feeling, my belly feeling like it was last week that in conversation with a block party, right? Let a collective intelligence block party and bring everyone together, everyone into connection. And ever since then, I've been, kind of just going with my feeling as opposed to being up in my head and, to-do lists and priorities and things like that, just kind of feeling my way.
Well, seems like the belly was the perfect place for you tonight then, because it's all about flow and trusting your gut and not being in your head. When I think of not being in my head, it's about being in my belly. That's the place. I also sense an immense amount of energy moving through you down there when you spoke. For me, because I'm a lot more energetically configured like Nolan, it was almost too much. I went there for a second and I went, whoa, and then I kind of just backed off a little. Went, okay, I could catch it from here, but directly in there, that's a lot. We're not all designed to do that. I mean, the majority of the world actually is, but there's some of us that are in a lesser minority that are more focused in a different, laser beam focused rather than the entire ball of wax focused, I guess you could say. But that's great. I mean, what a power that you're harnessing and hosting. That's, God bless you. And I'm not a Christian person, so to say God bless you must be really moving me. I don't have anything against any religion either. I'm just myself, and whatever works in the moment, that's what I do, because I think all of it comes from essence, and from essence, it's all one. So.
I just wanted to comment, if I may, that I just knew that I just really had a strong feeling that was going to be Jamin's place, because I sense that you are balancing, you know, with the radish and all this stuff. It's just so much. And I can identify, because I have a million details too, which I used to think I could capture them all. But I was really resonating with you, because like, no, there's just like too much. I can't figure it out. I have to go by my belly and my feelings. So thank you.
Beautiful. And so now we move to the root, which connects us deeply into the earth and our feet and the ground, and manifesting and materializing and all that good stuff.
Well, I can certainly relate to this feeling of ungroundedness in, I mean, I this is going back and doing a little shadow, I guess, but during this move up to Whidbey, felt that quite a bit, kind of like, you know, my feet aren't on the ground kind of feeling. And, but I can also think back to my experience at the university, and feeling like I didn't have this this base, this like home base that was secure and that I could rely on, and there was this kind of anticipation of having a rug kind of pulled out from under me kind of thing. And recently, the way this has become a gift is that I feel myself gain significantly more appreciation for things that I might have felt or thought were somehow like lowly in this like undeserving way, or like a way that I was not respectful of everything that heightened consciousness is built upon. And so recently I felt a I guess when it's coming from kind of all the way down there, and it's I mean, if it's not well rooted, then it doesn't have that kick or that, like, you know, and I think a big part of this for me, I'm kind of connecting it back to the throat a little bit, is I've been considering my contributions in spaces like this and in other meetings we're having and in the work we're doing going forward, the work is really about being with these groups, and I think being unrooted in the past has left me feeling more like I'm floundering in a social context. And that rootedness is what I think allows, really makes that punch at the end of it all, which we're in desperate need of to motivate and inspire and really manifest the change we need to manifest.
Well, even though your body gestures may belie that, I think that was beautifully expressed. And I definitely felt the rooted connection into the earth, and my bones. I felt my bones. So I know that is also an aspect in our physicality of the root chakra, is our bones. It's the most physical of our physicalness, because everything else is water and electricity and light and gushy and chemically and and volatile and transforming, but the bones are boom. That's that kick you're talking about. That's what gives the oomph to that kick, by the way. So I thought that was really well done. Thank you. So now, wow, we actually have a little time to do some siddha work. Finally, a meeting where we actually get a step into the siddha. So this is going to be fun because we haven't actually. We're going to use the theme that we've been working on up to now. We're going to keep that. And I'm going to ask all of you to suspend the tendency of disbelief and actually enter into a reality that we're going to create together with our intent and our consciousness and our awareness that comes from our belly that connects us to everything in existence, and however much we can be aware of that. And we're going to become more aware of it as we go. We're all gonna contribute from that chakra that we've developed, because that's going to be our modus operandi. And it doesn't mean that as we open this up, you can't use other ones, but it has to be centered always in the one that you contributed in the meeting tonight. It doesn't mean it always has to be that way, but tonight we'll do it that way because I think it'll just be easier to do it that way. So what we're going to do is we're each of us going to take that energy of grace that was pouring down from the little journey we went on at the beginning before we started sharing. It doesn't matter if you remember it, but there was something pouring down into us, and we're gonna just center that right down the center of our cerebral spinal, where our cerebral spinal fluid is. We're gonna let it pour right down through the center of that. Okay, and that's going to become our substance that we are going to be able to collect the grace of our intent. Okay, and for each of us, we're going to take that intent, and by grace I just mean condensed spirit, because spirit is just pure essence. And so if it's grace, that just means it becomes a force we can work with. That's what grace is. It's when spirit becomes a workable contribution. Let's just say it like that, because it's certainly not an object. It's one of the highest things. So I'm going to take that grace right now, and I'm going to open up, and everybody else, wherever your center is, take the grace and center it right there. And I'm going to ask all of us right now, when I used to do this in a living room in a circle of people, we'd all focus from whatever center we were on, a kind of like golden beam of that grace right into the center of the space between all of us. So we're just going to imagine that there's a central space between all of us right now. And for each of us, that could just be the center of the room we're occupying. And we're going to beam that presence of spirit right into the center of that room, so in such a way that all of us, even if you guys aren't in the room with me and I'm not in the room with you, we're all going to be in the same room in each of our rooms, focusing that beam of grace and creating a super collected, powerful beam, golden beam that's just going to start opening up. The more we beam into it, it's just going to open up to about the size of the room you're in. Okay. So we're just going to open it that big for each one of us. And so each of you in the room is right now present with me, contributing from your center where you gave your gift. And now what we're doing is we're creating a field where we can draw down a siddha, a miraculous ability. So we're literally creating our own unique entity of consciousness. But because the universe is so vast and so limitless, there must be some kind of higher being of consciousness that very nearly reflects the consciousness field of awareness, love, and what I like to call peace. That's the body I give to higher beings. I just call it peace because they do no harm. And that's the energy entity we are creating right now. So I'm just asking that light being descend into our space right now and synchronize with us. And we will share whatever our secrets of being organisms, organic beings, because higher beings love our organicness because they are not organic. So they learn as much from our organicness as we do of their luminous intelligence. And so I'm definitely feeling we're all doing it because my energy is, the room is cooling down. That's one of the best ways you know if you're attracting higher intelligence, the room cools down. So I'm starting to notice that, as well as a kind of super collected presence of energy throughout my body, kind of like a super stillness sort of thing that I'm not even doing anything to create. So I know that we're all contributing. So here's how I would like to contribute to the Siddha space, is to take everything I built up tonight so far and open up my knowing and superimpose this light web network of consciousness that already exists, that is desiring to interconnect with the love web network that we're creating in Vegan World 2026 in order to support the life web network of all life on this world. So if everybody could just take those words, light web network, love web network, and life web network, and allow them to work in your intent and create an image, that I'm just sort of infusing this sphere that's filling my room right now, kind of like, I don't know if you've ever seen a three-dimensional flower of life, like some people call it a Merkaba vehicle or whatever, but it's just a sphere just with really infinite spheres of flowers of life that are interconnecting everywhere and connecting everything in all kinds of different dimensions. And it's not just an imaginal thing, because if you actually tune into it, you can see that each point in that sphere has a unique energy. So if you take your awareness right now and tune into any place in the room and just hang out there for a minute, you can actually feel the energy come right into you where your center is that you're activating from. And it's good to check it out, maybe hang with each one for a moment or two, but do 2 or 3 so it's not just some, and notice that no matter where you focus, there's something you're picking up, and each place has a different, distinct feeling to it. So I just want to open up the field of all possibilities. That's what the Siddha realm is. It's the field of all possibilities. And it truly was introduced to me in my deep meditative experience years ago as a light web network, that each point in that web was occupied by either a Buddha, a Christ, an angel, and other kinds of beings we never even heard of that are like that radical, that intelligent. And somehow, from the time I was connected into that, and it's not something you can just drop into, you kind of need to go through this process of owning your stuff and then loving it, and then you have to go through a whole evolutionary process to kind of build your energy to even become aware of it, or it's more of an imaginary exercise than an actual direct experience of your being and a perception of reality that actually exists. And so as I learned to tune into that, as I'm doing it now, I can see that there's a lot of different avenues that are opening up into Vegan World 2026 that are definitely interesting in bringing forth new knowledge into the world through us as the nodes here in the love. I like to call this the Love Web Network, or you can call it the Heart Web Network if love sounds too mushy. I think for women it's okay. Men sometimes I think they kind of blanch at the word Love Web Network. It's like the Love Boat or something, but Heart Web Network is, I think everybody can handle Heart Web Network, because we're definitely creating a Heart Web Network here. And yeah, and I feel everybody's heart as I do that. Thank you, that was yummy. Gifts come through almost like food in the Siddha space. When the whole group feels a certain energy, it's almost, if you tune into it, it's almost like you can go, yummy, that was tasty. You can almost feel it. And good thoughts are almost the same but different. They're lighter in constitution, but they also are yummy if they're good thoughts. So this is a little bit of what happens when you start to get into Siddha space. Things take on assume a much more vivid and enhanced reality that's always there. We just don't tend to participate or pay that much attention to it, but it's always there in everyday life. If you actually slowed down and opened up enough and let your consciousness accelerate enough, you can actually get this stuff anytime. So that's a little bit of what the crown chakra, in its contribution to this field that we are creating in the center of each of our spaces, with each of our chakras beaming into it the spirit of grace and allowing that to hold this multi-dimensional flower of life field, which I guess it's just what my seventh chakra knows it to be, but that can shift and change through the different chakras as we go. And now there's no order. I mean, I always start because I always want to give an example of what I'm opening up. But at this point, there's no order anymore. So anybody through any chakra that they're, doing, whenever it hits, you can get creative with the space that's opened up, this multi-dimensional flower of life that's connecting us to all kinds of higher intelligence. Just depending, any direction you look, you can zoom in, and it will all, and that consciousness will zoom in on you at the same time, so that you can, and then you can even just stick with that and then allow that to become a communication that you can share with us. That's a lot of what I've been doing since I opened this space. I'm just tuning into certain areas and allowing stuff to come through that helps to illuminate the, like I called it, superimposition of a light web network throughout our vegan world that's sort of connecting us, just like the Buddhas in the light realms are connected. We're connected through the heart. But we're also connected in the light realm too. We're doing that right now. It doesn't happen a whole lot, but it's all that matters is we're doing it now. So that's kind of cool. So we're all kind of like Buddhas when we do the Siddha stuff. We're all remembering we're all Buddhas, and we're all sharing from that space. So that's the invitation here. And it's also the truth. So you're not just making it up. and it's also can be light and playful. It doesn't have to be serious. But I think I'm going to go on mute and see if anybody else comes up with some crazy wisdom.
Well, going off the idea of this love and light and a heart web network, I kind of went into this space in my own heart, remembering this experiment that or kind of this game or sort of playful exercise I do with myself, where when I'm out and about throughout my day, or coming to a point where I feel somewhat bored or like disconnected with my environment, I will start to try and focus on things around me and then try and impose a sense of like heart and home on maybe the door of someone's house, and try and really like feel into what it would feel like if I was connected to this place from my heart. Or what if there was something about the bowls and the spoons I was using that really made me feel at home, or a picture, try and really connect with I had grown up around this photo, and it just was full of nostalgia and good feelings, and starting to kind of tune into that now, I feel like the space kind of opens up to where I'm connecting with, I feel like I'm connecting with the beauty and letting my heart be a little bit like vulnerable to all the sense, opening up my senses as well to being vulnerable and sensitive and letting them evoke whatever emotions they evoke. But yeah, it kind of, the way I would describe it is it feels like the world becomes a little bit more Disney, and things take on way more character, and it just really makes me feel warm and fuzzy in my heart. So.
As you were describing that, I felt like you were opening up doorways, and everything you were describing, even the spoon, even the bowl, it was like a doorway into a way of perceiving something in a whole new way. It was really, really fascinating. So I thought that was incredibly well elucidated. It's probably because we're also tuning into a Siddha space, and that always just opens up all kinds of insights about everything in a really unusual kind of way. And never in the same way twice, if down the road we have the great good fortune of doing this all together again under a different format or geometry, who knows. But thank you. That was just, it was like doorways. Each time was a doorway into a different dimension, the way you were describing what you were doing. I could literally see it and go into it with you.
Well, I'm glad you say that, because that's kind of the way it feels for me. Is I feel like I'm opening up my world to like an infinite number of stories or something. Like everything is more storied and rich.
Well, we also have to remember that with our intent, as we cross the barrier of the tendency to disbelieve into let's create a reality together, we on a very subtle level agreed to allow all of our realities to intermingle simultaneously. So anybody who opens up anything in this space, anybody in the space can be right there with them, literally, and experience what they're describing as they're describing it, literally. And that happens a lot in this space, in the Siddha space, because we're really occupying the same space. We're like literally different chakras of some kind of being that's several dimensions, removed from us in terms of its capacity to create change in the universe through its consciousness. I mean, literally. So it's a thing that is staggering, but also awesome and really fun to do. Anyway, I'm on silence.
If I can share, it's just a little bit of insights. I don't know if it plugs in, but I'm just going to share anyway because it just came up. It was about really using our third eye and about that awareness and that awakening. And where love and that awakening really came and really transformed was I'd never realized how much of my story and my narrative was just steeped in trauma and drama and so much pain and so much oppression and so much attachment injury and inner child work. And, there were points in my life where I had huge awakenings, where life happened and it was break or grow. But there were moments where I remember, and so much of my training is that when we engage in relationships with people, it should not be for love, but it should be with people that we know we can grow with. It should never just be for love. It should be, is this relationship an opportunity for growth? And I wasn't being in a relationship with myself. I wasn't growing because I was so focused on the love outside that there were moments where I forgot that there was no love going in, and that's where the growth was stifled. And there were times where I had to say, I love myself more than this. And that's where the resilience grew. That's where the resilience was born. When I could look into the mirror and realize that the growth was stifled because I had no love for self. And when life happens, and stop seeing myself as a victim, but an opportunity to grow and look in the mirror and say, I love myself more than this. So I love myself enough to be honest. And that's where I could see. When I could see myself and love myself enough to apply the truth that was arising in my environment to myself and do that inner work where I could connect my heart with that insight and really truly see the truth. That's where all of the exponential growth started happening. So I just wanted to share that self-love is not that hallmarky kind of love. It is truly to remember who we are, to remember the essence of our being, that resilience that comes from loving oneself so much that you are willing to be so honest and just so open and vulnerable to truth. I think that is the beauty of love.
Wow, that was. I know a couple of parts in me grew a couple of notches just from that discourse. Thank you. And no, really, because of where you were coming from with it, and my own capacity to be honest with myself. But one of the beautiful things also too, because you were wondering if this fits in, and yes, it does, because one of the facets of Siddha work is to be able to clearly distinguish gift and Siddha in their interplay, and then describe it in a very beautiful way, like this dance, where it evolves and comes into a space that kind of includes and transcends both into a whole new dance of something else with other. So you did that very beautifully, and that's also, it's not just about, yeah, what I did is kind of opened a Siddhic space and just sort of shared a Siddhic space, but you can also take a Siddhic space and look at the shadow and the gift and see their interplay, because that's intimately part of who we are in our growth, in our process. So yes, that's definitely relevant and definitely a beautiful, expression of Siddha seeing what you were talking about. Yeah, thank you.
If I may, I don't know where this came from. It could have been my third eye or the crown chakra, but my experience was a vision, and it was like Indra's net. So I saw Mother Spider, and she had like almost like dewdrops all over her, and they were like diamonds. And she was spinning this web, which went out infinitely large into space, and each droplet of connection between the strands were a whole world. But they were kind of like bubbles, and within each one of those were beings, elements. Some were birds, some were music, some were color. And what I was getting from this at this time that we're living in now is, and I was part of this, we were all part of this, and we are part of this, were these new possibilities of connection that have never existed before. So the left brain can join the right brain. The artist can understand the scientist. Not just understand, but can come together and work together. And I think you said something about mind and doer coming together. So it was like all possibility, including new languages being born, new relationships, new ways of relating between the genders, between ages, between races. So it was like this infinite new way of connecting through the web of life, the web of creation, with Mother Spider spinning this new web of life.
Wow.
Tapestry.
You are such you always take me on a visual journey that's just mind-blowing, Melissa. And it's inspired me to kind of synthesize everything up to this point, just so I can emphasize what also the capacity of the Siddha is. If you're done speaking at the moment, or do you have more you wanted to say? Okay. So we created this golden web, light web, love web, life web network of a flower of life that interconnects all of us with all of life and with higher intelligence. And then Evan stepped into the picture, and we all of a sudden became this being that anywhere we looked was a doorway into this total experience, even if it was just a spoon or a bowl or anything. It's like anywhere we looked was a doorway into a whole new world, really. And then all of a sudden we stepped back into ourselves with Jackie, and we were just transforming through all of this. And we were watching the Siddha and the gift play the shadow and the gift play from the perspective of the Siddha, as we stepped into the center of this sphere and realized, as we were looking at stuff, and then all of a sudden, the universal life force in the form of the great mother spider with her sense of mystery just took her legs and stretched out over the whole thing in some kind of indescribable way and encompassed all of it with her universal life force wisdom, which is just limitless, endless, universal love. And all of a sudden, all these beads and just her creative energy all of a sudden just created these expressions everywhere, all over her body of reflections of what was happening, but creating it in a whole different, even kind of almost transcendent, but at the same time very down to earth sort of way. And so that's the journey I've gone on so far, because when I haven't forgot that we're all beaming into the space, we're holding the space, and I ask everybody to always keep that intent foremost in everybody's sharing, that you're constantly beaming from your space and creating, and we're all creating this Indra's net. And by the way, Melissa, two of my favorite things over the years on the path, one is I did a sacred Indian card reading, and the card in the very center of all the other cards was the spider. So for me, that's very precious and sacred, because it's the web builder and connects everything. And the other is Indra's net. I mean, that's probably my favorite metaphor of all spiritual transmissions, is Indra's net. A net of infinite mirrors, each mirror of which is capable of reflecting all the other mirrors, while at the same time being reflected in all the other mirrors. That's really beautiful. So thank you. I was inspired there on your sharing. Thank you. I'm done.
Well, I'll go. I saw Jesus, who is my main focus of love, who helps me to stay connected to unconditional forgiveness and love. And I saw him coming to the side and putting his hand on my solar plexus, and then on the other side, and just sending energy through my body, and sending his energy, his love, and reminding me that it's really important for me not to hold bitterness and resentment. And that I feel really grateful, because that's just so easy. It's an easy thing for me to do when I'm in the middle of this kind of process, and I have two people. I'm not letting go of that bitterness, but I'm seeing those people as they're in their process, they're in their stage of development, and I don't have to resent them. I just really want to, of course I don't want to, but that's where the energy kind of automatically wants to go, like defensive, and look what they did to me, look at how they hurt me. And now I just want to, I'm just experiencing gratitude, like thank you for all the gifts that you gave me. And I'm so ready to now release you into whatever you need to do for your life to become all that you are meant to be. I have faith that I don't have to be the one that helps you directly right now, that there's others who will help you, and that ultimately we all will be reconciled to oneness. We'll all be vegan. We'll all be living in a kind of a Garden of Eden, and it's not my responsibility to directly help everyone on this journey, except for with, when I think of them, to send prayers and love and hope for the best outcome.
Yummy. That is really beautiful. In my understanding of your reference to Jesus, I mean, I have a different angle on it, but I because I say Christ Michael, that's how I refer to that being, because I see that being as the creator of the universe we're living in. And also that at a certain point in time, since he promised to come back when the world is living in the state you said is coming, which it is going to come, where we're all vegan, and it's a world of love and light, then that is definitely when he will reappear, as far as I understand it. Because I take these things literally and very, how to say it, scientifically, but also very spiritually, that there's a lot of reality in all that. And I'll just share a little story at this point, if we don't mind, just a little interlude before everybody else goes on. One time I was, I had this, you know how like you have the atomic table of the elements? Well, I came across, created by this Gurdjieff, a Russian mystic who was very into true esoteric Christianity. And he was an enlightened being like Buddha or Christ. And anyway, he had created this angelic table, not a table of the elements, but a table of angels, of 104 angels, just like the 104 atomic elements. And I picked up the thing and I zoomed right in on Michael. And I said, this was after I had a kind of experience that sort of changed my whole perception of reality, where I kind of had a mystical death and rebirth. And I literally did die energetically, and I lost all my energy. And then grace went through me like the sky was falling down through me. And then I got clear about my life and what I was here for and what I needed to do. And then I started to see into other dimensions and all that stuff. But aside from all that, because of that, when I looked at this chart and I said, I want to invoke Michael. So the minute I did that, all of a sudden, as I understand it, Christ Michael sends out his emissary called the Spirit of Truth. That's available everywhere in this universe. And anybody who calls on that will actually get his essence through what's called the Spirit of Truth, which happened after he rose in his spirit body back to paradise and then came back to his place in this universe. But he had to go return and get, because they all have, never mind, that's a long story. But anyway, there's a lot of stuff I've looked into that. I love all the deep religions, especially the spiritual true transmissions of them. Anyway, the Spirit of Truth came to me, and in that moment I received his energy, and it was like a love that never stopped. And as I kind of felt up into it, it kept going and going and going and going, to the point where I felt if I went any further, I wasn't going to be able to stay in my body anymore. It was just too positive. So I literally had to put my head on the ground like that and stay there for a good half hour until enough of that energy went out of me that I felt like I was back in my body again. It was so powerful. It was unbelievably powerful. And so that is my direct experience of that guy you call Jesus. That whether I met him directly or not, I know through the Spirit of Truth that the essence was brought, and I got to see what love that doesn't end feels like. It's freaky in a really good way, but your body, if you hang with it too long, your body you will die because your body's can only go so far with that. Your spirit can go further, but your body can only handle so much of that. So that was really groovy. That was a Siddhic experience too, experience of universal love. But you inspired me to, from what you said, I wanted to share that, just to set the record straight with me and the Christ being, because I wasn't always so positively attuned to that, just because of the way most Christians in the world express it, which is a real turnoff, in my opinion. And I went to the East and got into the Taoist and many other things. But when I came back and found that being, the Christ being, it was a whole different experience, because it was direct for me and it didn't come from anybody else or through anybody else. It was me directly with that. And that's the only way I'll buy things. I don't buy them because somebody else said so. So it's not a belief for me, it's an experience. And so I'll just share that, and thank you for referencing it, because I always love to speak about that when I can. And also I want to say to you, thank you for your sharing, because that also similar but different than how Jackie, you got to see the interplay of the shadow and the gift through a kind of acidic perspective that you just kind of released, and you know, which is what the Siddha does with that stuff, transcends it. So everything is perfectly relevant. You really can't make a mistake in the Siddha space, even though a lot of times people think, I don't know if this is relevant or not, but that's just the mind. And you can take the Siddha and look at the mind and even play with it and pick it apart and show how silly it is, and you don't take it serious. It's not a big deal. Yeah, we have problems, so what? Done.
What a beautiful gathering. Thank you all. With this view of all the and everything, what I got and I'm getting is that we are all one, and the separateness of different spheres is really an illusion, right? An illusion of distance or whatever. And so like I remember when I was like a little kid, maybe 4 years old or something, and I was hammering something at school and accidentally hit my thumb with the hammer, and it hurt so bad, and wrapped it up, and after a day or two my thumbnail fell off and, you know, eventually regrew and all that, so no big deal. But it wasn't like this hand was trying to hurt that hand, it's just they weren't coordinated. And so it occurs to me, and also listening to what you were saying, Patricia, we're just not coordinated, right? As a species, some species are killing other species, interspecies harm and all that, like my hand hurt my other hand. But as we get increasingly that we are all one, then any thoughts, feelings of attack or hurt or jealousy or revenge or all these negative things, I believe those will all drift away. And so I'm just holding this beautiful experience of all of us as one. Thank you.
That felt like a very like a balm for the heart. So that was really cool. That yeah, that was a true essential nurturance that is needed for all hearts. That's very beautiful. I love that. Thank you, Jamie. Nolan, can I ask you a question? If your roots right now stretched all the way down into the center of the earth and then magically went through the center of the sun into the center of the galaxy and then into the center of everything, what would that feel like? Just an innocent question. And what if all of that was simultaneously present here and now in this golden web network that we're all holding with our consciousnesses right here and now? And I'll just open the present moment and stretch it out as far into the future as it need be for you to answer that question, which could be anywhere from now until you answer it. Because a lot of what you're not doing is answering a lot of the question already for me, and probably everybody else in some way or another too. Because it is quite something to feel. Everywhere simultaneously, as well as here in the space we're holding with our consciousness, in the shared space of the light being that's also present with us, that we've attracted, us seven, through our sacred geometry. Just lift your right hand, Nolan, if your answer is silence, because that's also a valid response from the root. That is a siddha of the root. Otherwise, we will, okay, thank you. Because like I said, everything you didn't say was a really good answer for me. So at this point, I'm going to conclude the recording. We can stay on for a little bit if there's a little bit of discussion, but I just wanted to bring it right up to the siddha and give everybody a chance to open that. And then we'll just leave the audience in animated suspense. Bye, audience.